Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei is the son of Great Red and Ophis? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the MAIRSARMY321 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Dimensional gap, a location that exists in between all worlds. In its seemingly infinite space, multiple large flashes of red and black can be seen colliding with one another. The two strongest entities in the universe are facing each other in one of their usual battles to claim dominance over the dimensional gap. One of these fierce entities is a massive red western dragon with a horn on his snout and has two sets of wings. His overall length measures around 100 meters. He is the Apocalypse Dragon, the true red dragon god emperor and dragon of dragons, Great Red. The other entity is another dragon god, one as fierce and strong as Great Red, the Ouroboros dragon god. Although unlike her counterpart, she took the appearance of a woman with a beauty so divine and ethereal in nature, no mortal or deity was a match for it. She had long black hair reaching to just a bit below her with massive S that even exceeds that of the great Seraph Gabriel, the most beautiful women in heaven, showing a voluptuous figure that could hypnotize any man if she were to let her aura's pheromones take control, with eyes that were a deep black that could hypnotize you with how mesmerizing they were. Her current outfit is a Gothic-style uniform with various purple designs and a few infinity symbols, but her area was open, revealing her overflowing S out in the open. She was completely barefooted. Despite Ophis being known as an emotionless being, her current expression is one of anger and is directed towards Great Red. For the last time, Baka Red, get out of the dimensional gap. The dimensional gap was my home, long before you ever stepped foot in it. Screamed Ophis as she sent out a large amount of energy straight at Great Red, who quickly dodged it by flying over the attack. Why should I, Ophis? Last I checked, you left for the human world and the dimensional gap was empty of residents, so I just moved in. Besides, like I told you a million times already, this place is big enough to house both of us, so why don't you give it a rest already? Replied Great Red with a sigh. Ophis burst out a great deal of her aura and yelled out, I would never want to share my home with you. I crave silence and you, with your ridiculous stunts and antics, are the furthest thing from silence. She then calmed down a bit and continued, how about you go live in the human world and occupy someone else's home? He simply answered, no, in the dimensional gap, I can fly freely and do whatever I want without the constant annoyance that occurs in the human world. Plus, I hate how everyone keeps staring at me when I pass by. Frankly, it's annoying. I'm amazed that you were able to live there for a while. I even heard that you created a team to defeat me even though it's futile. Great Red giggled a bit at the last part. How did I see, you saw it through dreams. No matter, I know it was futile, and that is why I am here to finish you off myself as I should have done ages ago. So, for the last time, get out of my home or face elimination, shouted Ophis as she flared out her aura which resounded throughout the dimensional gap. Great Red flared out his crimson red aura to match hers and shouted in his proud draconian voice, I will not leave, so give me your best shot. Yes you will. No I will not. Both dragon gods shout their attacks at each other at the same time, and when it collided, a huge shockwave reverberated throughout the dimensional gap, which was felt by many of the supernatural races, although it quickly subsided. Back in the dimensional gap, as the smoke clears, both dragon gods were seen relatively unscathed, despite the ferocity and strength of the attacks, which would have definitely vaporized any god in an instant, or even reduced an entire planet to rubble. It's a miracle the dimensional gap was even able to withstand such might. Ironically, this wasn't even their full power, which emphasizes how ridiculously powerful these two beings are. As both dragons are about to continue their clash, they see something unexpected happening around them. The residue of their power was slowly gathering in the middle of them, twisting and melding together into some type of form. Is this your trickery at work, Baka Red? No matter what you do, I will get rid of you once and for all. As amused as Great Red was over her temper tantrum, even he is surprised by this. Despite his powers being able to bend reality and create something from nothing, what was happening in front of him was definitely not from him. So, he decided to wait a bit and see what will happen. Ophis was not pleased that Great Red was ignoring her, but, for some inexplicable reason, she felt a bit of a tug pulling her towards the form that was being created in front of her, which was crazy, considering she should not be feeling any emotions. So, although still very much annoyed with the Apocalypse Dragon, her curiosity got the better of her as she too waited to see what would occur. The form continued to gather the excess energy caused by their clash and slowly began to change shape. First it gathered into a huge sphere of red and black energy and slowly began to form the shape of a dragon with 4 wings, but then it began to shrink and compress into what seemed to be a human form, and all of a sudden, the energy took the form of a baby boy. The boy looked human, but you could see on his black four draconian wings that were crimson in color like great red, however it had dark outlines across his wings. He also possessed baby fangs which were visible, black hair with streaks of red, and finally his eyes were draconian eyes, having red sclera with vertically slitted black pupils that represents true dragon's eyes. Across his body were several reddish-black dragon scales. Both Great Red and Ophis were flabbergasted by what just occurred. Never had they imagined that their clash would result in the birth of a baby. They could feel that the boy possessed both of their energies, making him their son, even though not conceived by normal means. Great Red found this turn of events rather fascinating, however his thoughts were a bit different on the matter. At first, she was confused by what happened, then intrigued by the boy, but when she sensed both of their energies within the infant making both her and Great Red its parents, she started yelling. "No way, I refuse to acknowledge that this boy is potentially our offspring. Never have I considered becoming a parent, but no way in hell will I ever sire a kid with you of all beings. The mere thought makes me sick." Her voice sounded more draconian but still feminine this time around, and her eyes changed to that of a dragon's, revealing how furious she actually was. That hurt a little, grumbling Great Red, keeping an eye out on what Ophis is doing. Ophis decides to take matters into her own hands as the aura around her manifests darkly around her. "This accursed creature is a mistake, one I will correct myself," stated Ophis. Although the moment she said that, she felt appalled by her words. She could not believe what she said, but her fury overrode her rationality. She gathered a large sphere of energy in the palm of her hands, enough to obliterate the boy in front of her. Great Red was surprised by her actions, although he didn't plan for this, he still found the boy to be fascinating and could not allow him to be killed off just like that, plus, he knew it would annoy Ophis, so he decided to try and stop her from killing the poor boy. However, before anyone did anything, the boy suddenly appeared before her and was looking at Ophis. Unknown to both of them, while Ophis was having her temper tantrum, the boy was slowly making his way towards her, despite the immense aura surrounding Ophis and being a baby not knowing what hostility is. He slowly made his way towards her until he was a few centimeters in front of her and looked straight into her eyes, knowing she was his mother. Ophis stared into the eyes of the boy, seeing his innocent beautiful eyes looking straight at her, almost as if he was looking straight into her soul. He, on the other hand, reached out to her with his little hands and was about to touch her hand that was filled with immense energy. Should it touch him, it would quickly kill him despite being the spawn of both dragon gods. Despite her raging emotions, the moment the boy was about to touch her, her instincts quickly screamed to spare his life, and she instantly dispelled her attack just as he took her hand with both of his. The moment he did, she saw him giggle and give her an adorable smile as he laid upon her and slowly went to sleep, knowing he felt safe in her embrace. Ophis quickly wrapped her arms around him to make sure he didn't fall. Ophis did not understand what was going on with her at this moment. One moment she felt anger, then confusion, and now worried, all because of this simple boy. What was happening to her? So many of these emotions were new to her as she has never, in her lifetime, felt them. Now, she felt the need to protect and care for the boy, despite the fact that he is also his child. What she was currently feeling was her motherly instincts kicking and finally acknowledging the boy as her son. All negative emotions that she was harboring suddenly disappeared as if it was all a dream, leaving behind a mother's love. As he lay in her arms, she displayed an expression that no one, not even Great Red, could believe. She had a warm smile as she looked over her son, and she vowed to herself that she would nurture and care for him as any parent would their child. As all of this was happening, Great Red could only stare in disbelief at what was happening before him. Never in a million years did he ever imagine Ophis expressing such deep emotions over a boy she previously wanted to erase. Now, in front of him, lay a mother carrying her baby in their arms, and although it wasn't like him, he felt very happy at the majestic scene in front of him. In a way, that boy is also technically his son. Suddenly, he had an idea, one that if it succeeded it could potentially stop Ophis from constantly harassing him out of the dimensional gap and coming after his neck all the time. The downside is his freedom would now be limited. However, the pros outweigh the cons, so he decided to take a chance. Ophis said Great Red. When Ophis's attention was redirected to him, he continued, "What would you say to raising this infant together?" I may have changed my mind about my child, however, why would I let him near the very same being I despise so much?" She replied with a fierce voice, but not loud enough to wake the baby sleeping in her arms. "I see, however, remember that he carries both of our energies, making the both of us his parents. Would you deny your son the chance to meet and live with his father? Would you deny him that right?" "I'll let you decide," said Great Red as he let Ophis think about it. Ophis wanted to quickly deny his claim, but the more she thought about it, the more it made sense to her. Every child is raised by both a mother and a father, no matter if it's the supernatural or the human world, and every kid deserves to know who their parents are. No matter how much she despises Great Red, Ophis wants nothing but the best for her little hatchling. She let out a large sigh as she looked up to Great Red and said, "Very well, we will raise our hatchling together." It was very hard for her to say those words, however you will take this role very seriously. So that will mean you will have to stop all your crazy antics and be there for the boy whenever he needs it. If, due to your actions, something happens to him, I swear to you, she gave him a fierce glare, as her aura surrounded her once more you will regret it. For the very first time in his existence, Great Red felt fear as a chill went down his spine when she said those words. It reminded of an old saying the humans once said, "Hell hath no fury like a mother's scorn," and boy were they right. So this is what fear feels like. Ha ha ha. This is very interesting indeed. I wonder how our life will change from here on now. This boy will change history as we know it. I can't wait to see what you will do with my son. Thought Great Red as his body shined in a bright crimson light, and out came a tall man with a muscular build possessing blood-red hair, wearing a red coat with black jeans. I understand. He flew towards Ophis and looked at the baby who slept peacefully in his arms. I have to admit, he is adorable, he thought, as he poked him a bit with his finger, which caused the boy's body to rustle a bit. The boy in his sleep suddenly muttered "Mama Papa" as both dragon gods got very flustered and amazed that the boy could already speak as well and be recognized as parents. Ophis especially was incredibly happy that her son called him Mama. "What will we name our little hatchling?" asked Great Red, leaving the decision up to her. Ophis thought long and hard and looked at her boy with a bright smile and said, "We will name him Issei. My sweet little Issei." Elsewhere. "Has anyone found where Ophis is yet?" shouted Shalba Beelzebub as he slammed his fist into the table. Around him were members of the old Mag faction that are now part of Cow's brigade. "We could not find her, sir. We scoured everywhere but could not even detect a trace of her presence anywhere," answered one of his men, albeit frightened. "Calm down, Shalba, you are acting like a child," answered a buxom woman with light brown skin and caramel brown hair tied in a bun. She wore glasses and a black outfit that is not very decent for public interactions. "She is right, Ophis tends to disappear and reappear as she pleases. She will eventually return as she always does," added another man who was near the woman. His clothes were black with dark red belts and even had a cape. He had black hair tied up to a small ponytail and had violet eyes. Shalba turned his head towards the two Kateria. "Crusory, how could you not take this situation seriously? We need Ophis's power in order to be able to take back the underworld from those fake Mau. As much as I loathe to admit it, Surzich and the other Mau's strength are too powerful for us to take on, and that is why we require Ophis power. She promised us power in exchange for our assistance, and yet now she completely disappears off the face of the planet. We cannot proceed with our plans without it," shouted as he let out his aura a bit, showing his frustration at the situation. Kateria and Crusory both understood his concern. It was true that they required her power, however it hurt their pride as the original descendants of the four great Mau to even acknowledge that the current Mau's strength was beyond theirs. You might be outmatched considering the current Beelzebub is indeed a super devil, but that little bitch Seraphil is in no way superior to me, the original Leviathan," said Kateria with an air of confidence. "Why you before and started a fight?" Crusory got between them to try and defuse the situation. Now, let's not fight amongst each other and focus on the task ahead. Although unlikely that they are stronger than us, the fact is that the current Maus are indeed very strong, and our plans would proceed that much easier if we have Ophis power added to our own, so we should pool our resources together and find her as soon as possible and bring her back. Would that do, Shalba? Shalba looked at Crusory as his expression and aura calmed down. "Very well. Let's make haste then. Men, scour every inch of this planet for her, but make sure your activities remain hidden from the three factions beckoning Shalba as one of his men asked, should we enlist the aid of the other factions within the brigade? Those weaklings are useless. Angels, humans, magicians are all worthless. We will use them if the need arises. Now go." His men disappeared via magic circles to begin their search. "Soon, we will reclaim what is rightfully ours and claim this wretched world for our own," sneered Shalba as he had an evil grin on his face, followed by his fellow faction leaders. Dimensional gap. After deciding Issei's name, they began to ponder how they would raise him. It is safe to say that neither of them has had any experience raising a child in their lifetimes. However, they would take it one step at a time and make adjustments as it goes. 4 years later. We see Issei flying about in the dimensional gap with his father, as Great Red is teaching him how to use his wings. Meanwhile, Ophis is seen reading a manual that she picked from the human world on how to raise kids, although it was hard to follow what humans did, considering they are dragons, so from time to time she sneaked into the dragon territory in the underworld, ruled by Tannen, the former dragon king, to see how the families raised their younglings. Flashback. To her surprise, although they were different races, they were very similar to how humans raise their young, albeit there are differences such as teaching them how to fly, breath fire, control their powers and other dragon-related things. However, she saw them helping them learn to walk, talk, playing with them whenever they could, and also let them play and socialize with other hatchlings, just like how humans take their kids to parks and they play with one another. She even saw some dragons teaching their kids proper manners and etiquette that might be useful in the future. Others are teaching their kids how to fight as dragons. Seeing the younglings play together made her think in terms of fundamental lessons, Great Red, and I can teach him well. However, what will we do in terms of social relations? Ophis has spent most of her life in solitude and hasn't really had any interactions with many people. A few have only been the members of the brigade that joined her, but they weren't really social interactions, just business. Except for Vali, who conversed with her from time to time, there hasn't been much exposure to people. I'll talk to Red about it and see what he thinks. End of flashback. Ophis watched Issei attempting to fly using his 4 wings. At first, he staggered and you could see him pout, which she found very cute, but after a few attempts he managed to succeed and is now flying alongside his father. Although, to her dismay, he started performing a few stunts reminding her of Great Red, but after seeing his happy expression, she decided to let things go. Still, for a small child, he learned things pretty quickly. At only 4 years old, he is able to speak pretty well and absorbs everything they teach him very fast. They are both extremely proud of his progress, as would any parent their kid. He was also really powerful, which comes at no surprise being the child of 2 supreme dragons. However, a few days after his birth, they realized that his power was way too strong for his body to handle, and if something was not done, the boy would have been extinguished by his own power, so Great Red conjured multiple levels of seals that sealed most of Issei's power. They agreed that they would teach him over time how to control his strength, and as he becomes stronger, the seals will be released one at a time until he masters his powers and takes his rightful place as the 3rd dragon god in existence. Ophis was sure despite most of his power sealed, he still possesses much strength within him, being stronger than a high-class devil, but not yet at ultimate class, which for a 4-year-old hatchling is very strong. "Daddy, wait for me," breathed heavily Issei as he tried to catch up to his father. "You are going too fast." Great Red looked over his shoulder to see a painted Issei as he slowed down, waiting until Issei caught up. "Oh, sorry Issei. Still, you are making great progress for a 4-year-old hatchling. It shows you possess great untapped potential. Isn't that right, Ophis?" Issei looked back to see his mother coming, so he flew straight at her and hugged her. "Mommy." With a warm smile, Ophis reciprocated the hug and she held him close to her. "Hi Issei, I see you are learning to fly properly. As expected from my son. I am so very proud of you," stated Issei as she kissed his forehead. Issei giggled a bit because it tickled him when his mother did this. "As your father said, you hold great potential inside of you waiting to be unlocked, and eventually when you learn to master yourself and your power, I have no doubt you will eventually surpass us," stated Ophis with absolute confidence. Issei was very happy when she said that. "You really think so, Mom? Will I be as strong as you? Will I be as awesome as Daddy?" he said with sparkling eyes, which caused Ophis to laugh a bit. "Yes Issei, although I don't think cool is the right word to describe your father." "Hey, I heard that," shouted Great Red. Issei laughed and soon started yawning, showing how tired he was. He was practicing very hard, so it was only untapped potential or not, he is still 4 years old and requires sleep. Ophis saw this and started singing a lullaby she heard in the human world, and slowly Issei closed his eyes until he went to sleep. "Good night my little Issei," said Ophis as she looked at Great Red, and he conjured a bed for Issei to sleep in. After safely tucking him in, she turned to Great Red. "Have you thought about the conversation we had previously?" "Yes, and I do have a proposal if you are willing to hear it," stated Great Red. "Go ahead." "Well, the only way for him to develop his social skills is to be able to mingle with other kids his age, so I propose moving into the human world and letting him play with kids his age," proposed Red. "Wouldn't he be better off mingling with other dragon hatchlings? Humans are different from dragons." I considered that fact and could ask Tannen, however if we show up in the underworld, there is a good chance someone may notice us, and that will lead to Issei's reveal to the supernatural world, and I would like to keep him a secret until he is ready to take care of himself. "You speak as if I would let anything happen to my little Issei." She let out her aura a bit, not too much to not wake up Issei. "I would eliminate anyone who dares harm even a single hair on my precious Issei," explained Ophis. "So would I, however, he is a dragon and eventually will take flight to start his own journey. No dragon likes to feel restrained, not even by his parents. We will nurture and protect him until he reaches maturity, and when he is ready to leave us, we will watch over him as he grows to become a splendid dragon god," stated Great Red as he looked up as if in thought. For a second, Ophis felt admiration towards Great Red which she could not believe. Despite being an idiot, you sometimes say smart things. Said Ophis with a smile. I have my moments. Grinned Great Red as he didn't care that she called him Baka Red anymore. So have you pondered on my idea or do you require more time? Ophis thought about it and answered, I find your idea plausible. However, even though it is the human world, there is still a chance for Issei to be revealed to the supernatural world. His draconic aura might invite enemies towards him, and I'm scared to take that chance. This is probably the first time she has ever felt fear for something in her life, as her body shook at the mere thought of Issei getting hurt. I just don't want anything bad to happen to him. If something were to happen to him, I don't know what I'd do. Stated Ophis as a few drops of tears came out from her. So many new emotions that she didn't even know she could have are coming out to the surface, and she doesn't know how to deal with it. Great Red was flabbergasted, never would he have imagined seeing Ophis display such pure emotions. He thought about how he should calm her, to which an idea popped up, but it might result in him getting his ass whooped. Here goes nothing, hopefully I survive the onslaught. Thought Great Red as he came close to her and suddenly hugged her. Ophis looked straight at him, confused and angry at the same time. What do you think you are? Before she could finish he interrupted her. What you are feeling right now is very normal, Ophis. You are overprotective of Issei as any mother would when considering the safety of their hatchling. But, you shouldn't worry so much, he said in a calm voice as Great Red wiped her tears off her eyes. As I told you before, we will ensure that he is well protected and nurtured every step of the way. No matter what problems may occur, I'm pretty confident we will get through it and protect Issei from whatever danger may happen. With a grin he adds, after all, we aren't the two most powerful beings in the universe for nothing. After his speech, Ophis redirects her gaze downwards and removes herself from his grasp. Oh crap, I may have overdone it, though Great Red as he believed Ophis to be mad at him for embracing her. She turned around as her back was facing him. I'll only say this once, so make sure you listen, as Great Red prepared himself for a thrashing. She said thank you in a low and flustered voice, although not low enough for Great Red to not understand what she said. That was honestly something he didn't expect, but he was at least relieved he wasn't going to get beaten up. You're welcome, he replied. Ophis wiped away the remaining of her tears and faced Great Red once again. When should we prepare to move to the human world? Asked Ophis. I believe around the time Issei reaches 5 years old. That will give me enough time to make preparations and pick a suitable location to live in. Answered Great Red. Very well, go ahead. With a nod of his head, Great Red teleported via his own magic circle to begin his search. Ophis looked at Issei's sleeping form and decided to sleep near him, even though she does not require it. She placed herself near Issei and feeling his mother near him caused Issei to move a bit and instinctually went to hug her. Although, since he is small, he was simply hugging her arm. Seeing this, Ophis smiled brightly at him as she brought him closer to her and soon drifted off to sleep. Unknown to her, a bit farther lay a bat-like familiar that was looking over them, and then it teleported out of the dimensional gap. At last, after all these years, we finally found her. Shalba-sama and the others will be pleased to hear the news. Said the owner of the bat familiar. Who do you think is that kid sleeping near her? It seems to be very important to Ophis. Asked another servant. Who knows, we will let the leaders decide what to do. For now, we must let them know this information as soon as possible. Shalba-sama is already pissed at us for taking so long to find her. Any more and it could have been our heads. Everyone else nodded and teleported to their headquarters. At the old Satan faction headquarters. The group headed to the council group where the leaders are located. Shalba-sama, Kateria-sama, Krusuri-sama, we have finally succeeded in locating Ophis. Said one of the servants. About the time you found her. It's been over 4 years since she disappeared. Why has it taken you fools so long to find her? Shouted Shalba. Shaken with fear, the servant shuddered because she was located in the last place we thought to look. Where would that be? Asked Kateria. In the dimensional gap. As the servant displayed a projection of Ophis and Issei. Why, in Satan's name, did it take you idiots 4 freaking years to look into the dimensional gap? Roared Shalba as his aura leaked out from him. He was clearly not in a good mood. It's because Great Red is living in there, and since Ophis despises him, we believed she wouldn't set foot in there until Great Red is removed. Said the servant, trembling and scared for his life. Even though Shalba wanted to end this fool's life, he could not refute their reasoning considering the fact that Ophis gathered them specifically for that purpose. He somewhat calmed down after a moment and said. Very well. Now dismiss. They bowed and left the room as quickly as possible, leaving behind the leaders who were conversing with each other. This is troubling news. If she is in the dimensional gap, does that mean that she managed to defeat Great Red by herself? And if so, it would mean that she would not be willing to give us her powers anymore, stated Krusuri as Shalba immediately refuted him. I highly doubt that, simply due to the fact that if her strength alone was sufficient, she would have never created the Cows Brigade and would have simply engaged him long ago. Then, what of Great Red? Has he taken residence somewhere else, because there is no way Ophis would share the dimension gap with him? Queried Crusory. I don't know, and the truth is I don't really care at this point. Our primary concern was locating Ophis's location, and now that we have found her, we must find a way to acquire her power once more. Our plans have been delayed for too long searching for Shalba. And how exactly are we going to achieve that? Through brute force. You know as well as I that it is stronger than us. The only reason it promised us power was to help it kill Great Red and return to the dimensional gap. Crusory explained. I know, you idiot. There must be some way to force it to give us its power. Eventually, Crusory noticed that Kateria was silent during their entire conversation and decided to ask. Kateria, is everything okay? You are unusually silent. I've been examining the image left behind by the servants while you two have been uselessly bickering. Shalba twitched at that while Crusory simply continued to listen. Now that I have all your attention, didn't any of you notice something amiss about that image? Both of them took the time to examine the image once more and quickly noticed what she meant. Who in blazes is that kid? A new recruit perhaps? What aid can a mere child offer in a battle against Great Red? Exclaimed Shalba. Giggled Kateria, you two aren't looking carefully. The boy is much more precious to her than a mere recruit. Just look at this expression. Responded Kateria as she pointed the image of Ophis. Shalba immediately retorted, what in blazes are you saying, Kateria? Ophis doesn't possess any emo. As both looked at his face, they became astounded as she expressed a pure smile. Now, they were shocked beyond belief. Ophis displayed a smile of pure happiness while embracing the boy. What the hell? They both thought. It is impossible for Ophis, a being born from nothingness, to be able to display any kind of emotions, and yet the image before them disproves that. No words came out of their mouth as they contemplated the oddity before them, as Kateria continued to hypothesize a theory. The way she acts with that boy appears to be how a mother would with their son. Shalba practically jumped out of his seat as he shouted, what bullshit are you spewing now? The Ouroboros has no son that anyone knows about. Do you have any theories about Ophis's situation right now? In all our time in Cows Brigade, have you ever seen it react like this towards us? At best, all I've seen close to a smile was a small smirk it had when speaking to the White Dragon Emperor. If you have an idea, then I'm all ears, she asked. As much as he wanted to refute her, she was right. He had no suggestions to counter her, nor could he think of anything that could explain this anomaly. Anyways, why not look at this as an opportunity? She continued. What do you mean by that? Asked Crusory. She looked at the two of them, forming a small smirk. Weren't you two talking about how to get Ophis to give us its power? The answer is right in front of us. As she pointed at the kid. Whether it's its child, spawn or ally, we can deduce that he is in existence who is extremely important to it. So, if we manage to kidnap him and use him as a hostage, we'll be able to use him as leverage for Ophis to give us its powers. Shalba agreed with her view, however Crusory has a different opinion on the matter. Your idea is plausible, if not for the simple fact that we are dealing with the Ouroboros dragon. If, as you claim, the boy is important to it, the moment we try something Ophis will annihilate us. Which is why we must be extremely careful with how to deal with this. It will take some time, but if we plan things correctly, we will be able to negotiate with it and claim Ophis power for our purposes. Unless, you guys have a better idea on how to persuade it to give us its powers. Stated Kateria. Both of the team leaders could not think of anything. After a brief period of thinking, Shalba let out a sigh and said, very well, we will go with your suggestion, Kateria. We will send our men to spy on them and report every detail to us so we can thoroughly plan our next move. In the end, we require its power, so we will use whatever means necessary to attain it. Do we have a backup plan should this not work? Asked a worried Crusory. If the worst comes to worst, we might have to ask him for aid, however, that will only be as a last resort. Stated Shalba as both other leaders understood what he meant. They could only hope that their plan would work. Assemble our best infiltration and concealment team and let them know of their mission. Yes. Both stated as they teleported via their magic circles. In the dimensional gap, Issei is now 5 years old and he is currently breathing fire out of his mouth. When he first saw his father and even his mother do it, he was amazed by how cool they looked, and so he decided he wanted to do it as well. He is a dragon after all, and what is a dragon without the ability to breathe fire? However, it was not as easy as it looked. He tried to focus power in the pits of his stomach, and when he breathed out he could only get a small burst of flames. He had tried many attempts at this, but they all ended in failure. He made a cute pouting face whenever things didn't go his way, which Ophis found absolutely adorable. She went to him and when he saw her, he came running towards her and asked her with puppy eyes. Mom, what am I doing wrong? I tried and tried, but I can't seem to make it work like you and Dad showed me," pouted Issei. She smiled and answered, "Do not worry, my little Issei, it takes time and practice to be able to do it, and I know you will eventually get the hang of it. In fact, you were able to breath out a small amount of flames, which is incredible at your age." "Really?" asked Issei. Ophis patted his head yes. At that moment, Ophis saw Great Red teleporting back in. "Why don't you continue playing while I talk with your father?" said Ophis. With a nod of his head and a wave towards his father which he reciprocated, Issei went back to doing his thing, while Ophis went to talk with Great Red. "How's everything going on your end?" "All preparations have been made. The place we are going to inhabit is located in Japan called Kuo. From what I can tell, that place is the territory of the Gremory Devil's family. In my opinion, it is the perfect place to raise Issei, because not only will we be able to remain hidden, but, from what I could tell, not many beings have the guts to incur the wrath of the Gremory family, specifically the super devil Sursage's Lucifer. I have acquired us a house, and just to be sure no one recognizes us, we will conceal our presence and aura, so that no supernatural beings can locate us," stated Great Red as he reverted to his human form. Ophis nodded as she placed her hand on her chin and asked, "Are you sure it's a good idea to reside in devil territory? They have many conflicts with the other Christian factions, which could lead to us getting indirectly involved. Wouldn't it have been better to live in a city where only humans reside?" She was worried that being in a city with supernatural beings would cause Issei to be revealed much sooner than she wanted. His safety is her top priority at the moment. Great Red, sensing her distress, replied. "At first, I also thought about living in a human region without any supernatural beings, but there are several issues pertaining to that. Although we can conceal our presence completely from outside forces, Issei is still too young to master that ability, therefore, his draconic presence might leak from time to time, and in a place devoid of supernatural entities, will be sensed by other factions, which could lead to them sending people to investigate the unknown presence. On top of that, in today's era, dragons, especially powerful ones, are feared by all factions, so in the worst case, gods and other forces may be sent to try and deal with us forcefully. Granted, with our combined might, we could easily deal with any puny gods that come our way, but our son might be caught in the crossfire, which is something I really don't even want to think about. That is why I chose a location that is controlled by the devils. Since they control the territory, other factions would not be able to intervene, even if they were able to sense us. We would only have to deal with evading devil sentries, which by placing barriers around our place would do. We will use the devil's influence over this place to hide ourselves in plain sight until our little Issei is strong enough to protect himself." Ophis was very impressed by Great Red at the moment. She never pegged him as an intellectual type of dragon due to his constant laid-back attitude, and so she let out a small laugh. "What's so funny?" Great Red asked, a bit ticked that she was laughing at him. "Oh, it's nothing really, just I never imagined you being this smart. It seems Baka Red is no longer Baka," said Ophis, to which Great Red just stated. "I was never dumb to begin with. You and I are both entities that have been born way before any gods roamed the world and therefore have the intelligence to back it up. I was just never serious about anything in my time in the dimensional gap. I simply wanted to roam free," but now he paused and looked at Issei flying about and trying to shoot out fire. "I have a reason to take things seriously," he said in a firm and decisive tone. "You are right," she replied as she too stared at Issei. Great Red, wanting to get back on track, continued, "So, are you okay with moving to Kuo, or would you like to keep searching?" To tell the truth, Ophis really did not want to move anywhere. She wanted to keep Issei in the dimensional gap where she knew he would be safe from any harm, but she also knew it would be detrimental to his upbringing. Anyway, sooner or later, Issei will get curious enough to go visit the human world and may get himself into trouble without them knowing, which is something she desperately wants to avoid. After a careful amount of consideration, she yielded and told Red, "I'm alright with it. No matter where we go, there will always be risks that come along with it. All we can do is limit them as much as we can," she sighed as she looked to Issei. Issei. Having heard his mom calling him, he flew over near her. "Yes, Mom," he said, with a big smile on his face and his tail swigging like a puppy. His hair was a bit messy, his wings a bit charred due to all the practice he's been doing, but Ophis does not mind it at all. It just makes him look that much cuter. She bent down to be able to look at him at eye level and told him in a sweet tone, "We are going to be moving today to the human world. The reason being that it has come to our attention that it would do you some good to socialize and play around with kids your age instead of being secluded here in the dimensional gap. You will get to meet new people, make friends, experience things we cannot teach you, and much more. Are you ready to leave?" explained Ophis. She secretly hoped that Issei would not want to leave the dimensional gap and would be afraid to go to an unknown place, which is why she was incredibly surprised when Issei shouted, "Really? Yahoo, let's go." Issei was jumping up and down showing how excited he was. Unknown to both Ophis and Great Red, Issei had been secretly planning to visit the human world for some time. From time to time, ripples in the dimensional gap would appear, and through them, Issei caught a glimpse of the outside world, ranging from seeing kids play in the park to even seeing devils and angels go about their business. Saying that this didn't captivate his attention would be a lie. Ophis' earlier concern was actually spot on. He became curious about the outside world and all the wonders it may contain, and therefore was planning to somehow sneak away. Luckily, he doesn't have to do that now since his mom just told him they would be living there, which got him very excited at the revelation. Ophis nodded and brought Issei to Great Red as he prepared the teleportation magic circle to take them to their new home. Ophis looks around and breathes a heavy sigh. "What's wrong?" asked Great Red. "I cannot believe that I am voluntarily leaving the dimensional gap so soon after I came back, much less with you of all things. The silence I craved so heavily is being given up so easily yet, unexpectedly, I don't feel bad about it," she said looking at Issei. Great Red simply replied, "Well, I cannot believe I will be raising a family together with you, but it seems fate had a different goal in mind for us." He looks at Issei. "All the problems and issues that will eventually arise is something my previous self would never, in a million years, have taken. Yet honestly, I can safely say I wouldn't have it any other way," with a big grin on his face. Ophis lightly blushed at what he said, but quickly suppressed it, thinking I was just flustered by what he said. No, this is Baka Red. The magic circle is ready, are you ready?" asked Great Red, unaware of the inner turmoil Ophis just had. She quickly shook herself back to reality and just nodded her head, signaling that she is ready. The three of them got teleported to the front of their new house. Surprisingly, the house wasn't anything grandiose. It was a normal two-story terrace house with a light blue exterior, a balcony on the second floor, and a brown roof. The first floor includes a living room and kitchen, while the second floor has 3 bedrooms with bathrooms. Considering Great Red's personality, Ophis thought he would get them an extravagant house, but since Great Red did not want to attract attention to them from both the human and supernatural side, he got them a normal house. "This is the place we will be living in for a long time. Do you like it, Issei?" Before he could answer his father, he bolted inside the house as his excitement was through the roof. Well, that answers that. Both dragon gods giggled at his own comment. As they were going in, Ophis noticed a few barriers surrounding the house, understanding that they were used to keep unwanted people away and keep them hidden, as well as for Issei's protection, should they need it. Being the Ouroboros dragon god, she could feel the devil's presence in the town, as well as a few fallen angels. Although too weak to pose a threat to them, she would rather avoid any unnecessary conflicts that may arise from coming into contact with them. She notices in front of the door a sign that says Haidu and looks puzzled at Great Red, who understood what she was getting at and told her. "I've given us the family name Haidu while we reside here in order to keep up appearances. To the outside world, the Haidu family resides here." Ophis acknowledged with a nod that she understood what he said. Now their new lives will begin today, and not even she knows what the future may bring. Issei, at the moment, was extremely excited. Why shouldn't he be? This is the place he caught a glimpse of in the dimensional gap and has, since then, piqued his curiosity. He could not wait to go outside and explore the wonders of the world. Unlike most kids his age who are very timid and shy, he is very outgoing and willing to try new things. He wanted to go visit the park he saw back then and hopefully play with other kids. His parents did explain to him that he needed to be very careful due to his origins, and the fact that he had to keep his race a secret as humans will be absolutely terrified of him should they find out he was a dragon. He had to be cautious that he doesn't accidentally sprout his wings out or breathe fire out of his mouth. He promised his parents that he would be very careful and make sure to keep out of trouble, otherwise they would not let him play outside. After getting accommodated to the new house, Issei immediately bolted towards the nearest park, and luckily for him it was not very far. Ophis, worried about his safety, wanted to immediately follow him, but was quickly stopped by Great Red, who waved his head side to side, telling her that they should allow Issei to live his own life on his own terms without their intervention. Ophis argued back that he is too young to take care of herself, but was reprimanded by Great Red when he reminded her that he was a dragon, and many dragon parents allow their young the freedom to do as they want to, give them a sense of individuality and sometimes responsibility. He goes to tell her that she worries too much and that should anything happen, they could quickly intervene to help him as they can sense him anywhere he goes. After constant back and forth bickering, Ophis reluctantly agreed to let Issei do what he wanted for the moment, but made sure to tell Great Red that if anything were to happen to her little Issei, he would understand the meaning of the term hell on earth. A drop of sweat could be seen on Great Red's face when she said that, but he nodded nonetheless, thinking, "I hope you'll be okay, Issei, or I might really end up dying today." Issei Pav. I quickly ran out of our house in search of the playground, also known as a park. I've seen only glimpses of the back in the gap. I remember seeing that place surrounded with many different kids my age playing amongst themselves having fun. I hope that they will let me play with them and, hopefully, I'll be able to make friends. After a while, he finally made his way to the park and the place was exactly as amazing as he saw it back in the dimensional gap. No, it was even better because he was able to see it with his very own eyes, in person. He saw kids playing tag together, kids swinging on swings, playing ball and many other things. It made him really impatient at the thought of being able to try new things he couldn't even dream of back home in the gap. He was grateful to his parents for trying their best to raise and protect him by themselves. He loves them both very much and would do anything for them, but secretly, he longed to be able to see the outside world and, as previously mentioned, was about to sneak away from the gap and into the human world. However, that was in the past, and now his parents allowed him to play outside, which he will now take full advantage of. He first approached the group of kids playing tag, and when he got close, they all stopped to look at him. "Hello, my name is Issei." He greeted them with a wave of his hand, expecting them to interact with one another. Unfortunately, the response he got was something rather unexpected. Instead of replying, all the kids slowly back away from him, not even bothering to answer him or even talk to him. Issei thought it odd but decided not to pursue it and instead tried going to play with a different group. Regrettably, the same outcome occurred with every other group of kids. No one wanted anything to do with him. Issei did not understand what was going on. Why was everyone avoiding me? Did I do something to offend them? He pondered a bit and believed that maybe all of them were nervous at a new kid suddenly appearing out of nowhere. They were probably a bit spooked by his appearance, which would make sense as kids are taught to not trust strangers. So, instead of becoming depressed, he left for home intending on trying again the next day where he might have better luck. He is a brave and cherished person for a 5-year-old child. Sadly, reality is a cruel and fickle thing. For the following week, Issei attempted to interact with other children, but time and time again to his sorrow, they either continued to avoid him or straight up ignored him. To make matters worse, sometimes, even parents took their kids away from Issei. As this continued, Issei's heart slowly broke. He could not understand why everyone was treating him like a plague, a nuisance. A sniff could be heard from Issei as he wandered back home with a teardrop falling from his face. Why won't anyone play with me? What did I do? Issei asked himself as he started crying looking at the ball he's currently holding. He did not understand why everyone was so afraid of him, as if he were a monster. Furthermore, if that weren't bad enough, many simply ignored his presence completely, as if they wanted nothing to do with him. Even though Issei is a dragon god, he is still only a child, and to be alienated and treated horribly by everyone around him only hurts his feelings deeply. Unbeknownst to him, the reason everyone kept fearing and avoiding him is due to one simple fact. It was something that every dragon possesses, and that is aura. Every dragon, whether high or low class, has something that differentiates them with other dragons and other species in general, and that being the manifestation of their aura. It is basically the nucleus of every living dragon for them to use their powers, and with age and experience, their aura would manage to gain certain properties that would help them grow at an alarming pace, even amongst their own kind. For instance, the two heavenly dragons Drake and Albion. When awoke his aura, the trait he received was of domination. That's when he gained his first ability related to his aura of domination, which were his flames capable of annihilating even gods, reducing them to ash. The same for Albion, who gained the trait of supremacy, which gave birth to his venom ability that had the same lethal potential as Drake's flames. Even Ophis and Great Red have auras symbolizing their concept. Ophis's aura being infinite symbolizes the infinity of nothingness, while the Great Red aura represents the illusion of dreams. Issei is no different, being the son of not one but two dragon gods, and essentially being born off both auras meshing together. His aura awoke the moment he was born. Even though his parents are able to completely conceal their parents and auras from others, Issei does not, due to him being too young to know how to do so. Therefore, to supernatural beings he would be seen as a powerful individual, but to humans, his aura gives a frightening feeling, and they could only view him as a monster, much to his dismay. As he continued walking, he passed by a staircase that led to a shrine above. For reasons unknown, Issei climbed the stairs and headed to the shrine. Once he reached the entrance, he spotted someone cleaning the entryway just a few meters ahead of him. It would be an encounter that would change his life entirely. It was a young girl around his age or possibly 1 year older than him. When he saw her, he was mesmerized by her appearance. She had black raven hair tied in a bun that went till her shoulders, was dressed in a traditional Miko outfit, but what drew his attention were her beautiful violet eyes. Issei was so enthralled that he did not realize that he was slowly making his way towards her until he accidentally stepped on a branch that snapped as he stepped on it. His instinct quickly kicked in as he hid behind a nearby tree, but not before the girl managed to catch a glimpse of him doing the act. "Hello, who is it?" she asked, approaching his general vicinity. Inside, Issei was panicking. Should he reveal and introduce himself since she already knows he is here? He wanted to, but the second he was about to step out from behind the tree, he froze as flashbacks of all the previous encounters he had with other children assaulted his mind, and now he was scared that she too would be afraid of him and most likely run away. For a moment, he did not know what to do, but with a quick glance, he saw that she would find him either way. Therefore, with stiff movements, he slowly came out of his hiding place as he made eye contact with the girl. Up close, she looked even prettier than she did when looking from afar. They stared at each other for a moment, and Issei recognized that the girl was a bit startled by him. He panicked thinking it was going to be the same situation all over again. He looked at the ball in his hands and decided to take a final chance. Should he fail, he will give up and seclude himself in his home with his parents. If he was going to continue to experience this misery, then he would rather not live in such a world. In a panicked voice he asked while showing her his ball. "Hello, I'm Issei, would you like to play with me meme?" He staggered his speech, looking at the ground beneath him, out of nervousness, which is reasonable considering what he went through. On the other hand, the girl was very surprised by his demeanor. She did feel a bit afraid from his aura, but when she saw him stagger, she found him to be very cute and giggled a bit. "Hello, I'm Akeno Himejima. It's nice to meet you, and I would love to play with you," she answered with a sweet smile. Issei was extremely shocked at her answer. He honestly expected her to shy away from him like everyone else, but instead she agreed to play with him and is even looking at him straight in the eye. To him, it felt like an incredible weight had been lifted from his shoulders as he looked her in the eye with a big smile on his face. "Thank you so much. You're funny. Let's play since you brought a ball," she said. They both started playing in the entryway of the shrine, considering how big it was. Issei was extremely content that he finally had someone to play with him, and he hoped she would become his first friend in this world. As they were playing, suddenly a strong presence made itself known right behind Issei. His instinct screamed at him that he was in danger. He looked behind him to find a middle-aged, gruff-looking man with black hair, matching beard, and had a muscular body. What grabbed his attention were the 10 black wings that were located on his back. "Akeno, get away from him." "Who are you, boy?" demanded Barael, father of Akeno. He had recently come home from a mission only to find his daughter playing with a boy around her age. At first, he was very happy for her since there were very few instances, if not any at all, that she was able to step outside the safety of her home and play like any kid her age should. Both his wife and him were very concerned for her upbringing. Still, Barael had many enemies, and the last thing that he wanted was for them to know about his family's existence and place their safety in peril. Even Shuri's family would no doubt want to get rid of Akeno for being part of the fallen angel. Therefore, they had no choice but to keep her safe in the shrine as much as possible. So, to see her play without a care in the world brought a smile to his face. Regrettably, that did not last very long. When he looked at the boy, he felt a tremendous power radiating from him. It wasn't stronger than him, but coming from what seems to be a 5-year-old boy raised alarm bells in his head. He quickly switched to his protective father mode as he became extremely worried for Akeno's safety. Being a fallen angel cadre, in his long line of work, he has seen and faced many different beings, and there exists yakai demons that can shapeshift forms to attract children. Even worse still, this could potentially be a ploy from one of his many enemies that managed to discover the location of his family. Although, a small part of his mind disagreed with those thoughts, first, due to the fact that his aura felt raw and primal, more powerful than any yakai could ever hope to achieve, and second, if his enemies really did find his family, they would have sent an entire battalion to deal with him and not some elaborate scheme like this. Either way, it did not change what he had to do. He would eliminate any threat to his family no matter who or what they were. Issei looked up at Barael, his body trembling from the hostility sent towards him. "Mima, my name is Issei, and I don't mean to cause any harm. I was only playing with Akeno," answered Issei to Barael, trying to quell his anger towards him. He could sense that he was way stronger than him and could get rid of him quite easily if the being in front of him wanted to. Akeno, seeing this, quickly came to his defense. "Dusan, Issei and I were simply playing with one another. He isn't trying to hurt me. He is a sweet boy and a new friend of mine," said Akeno, firmly looking at Issei when she said her last statement with a smile. Issei felt happiness overwhelm him, not only because she came to his defense, but mostly because she called him her friend. Something he desperately wanted to achieve the past week. Thankfully, he quietly murmured to himself as well as blushing a bit, not knowing that Akeno saw and heard him, making her blush a bit when she saw his expression. "He's so cute," she thought to herself. Seeing this interaction caused Barael's wrath to slowly evaporate. Although his guard wasn't down, he could clearly see that he may have overreacted on the poor boy. In addition, seeing his daughter blush at the young boy made him giggle a little as he believed that Akeno may have discovered her first crush. Before he could apologize to Issei for his behavior, he sensed an overwhelming powerful presence phasing into existence right in front of them. Black ore in the shape of snake suddenly began materializing, and from it emerged an angry Ophis who witnessed the events transpire. Issei and Akeno. While both of their respective parents were having a discussion among themselves, Akeno made her way towards Issei and marveled at his wings. "So those are the wings of a dragon?" she asked. Issei, confused, tilted his head a bit at her remark until he quickly realized what she meant. His 4 draconic wings were exposed and she got to see it. He became frightened at the thought that she would now back away from knowing that he wasn't human, but a monster. Although, contrary to his belief, she just smiled at him and said, "Wow, your wings are fascinating. They possess a beautiful combination of crimson and black." Looking at his wings, Issei, surprised, asked, "You're not afraid of me? I thought you would be scared knowing I was a monster," he solemnly said to Akeno with his head down. She simply approached him and karate chopped his head and it came out from him as he rubbed his head a bit. "You're silly, why would I be afraid of my friend?" she said, a bit annoyed that he thought so little of their friendship. Issei could not believe it, despite knowing what he is, she did not shy away from him and still called him his friend. He was stupefied, the answer he guessed was completely off the mark. Looking at the expression of relief in his face brought a smile to her face and she decided to reveal her little secret, although seeing that Issei already met her father, he should probably know that she isn't entirely human either. She spread out her 2 fallen angel wings from her back. Issei saw them and only one thing came to mind. "So pretty," he suddenly blurted out. Akeno cheeks blushed red at the statement he made. "Ah, really?" she asked, knowing this was the first time a boy complimented her and she liked it. "Can I touch them?" he asked with sparkling eyes as he had never seen fallen angel wings before. Akeno nodded and Issei quickly began to feel them, not knowing that Akeno was slightly blushing since fallen angel wings are very sensitive. "Amazing, they are so soft and fluffy in addition to being beautiful," he said, speaking honestly from the heart, which, again, made Akeno blush red at the compliments he gave. She then glanced at his wings and decided to also feel them. She was very curious considering that it is the first time she has ever met or even seen a dragon. "Ifufu, your wings are big and strong yet gentle to the touch. The wings of a dragon indeed look splendid." She smiled at him when she said that, which made him blush as well. "Why didn't you tell me you were a dragon?" she asked him. "I was just afraid that you would be scared of me knowing what I am. I guess it was unfounded." "Haha," he replied, scratching the back of his head. "But seriously, thank you for accepting me as your friend. You have no idea how much that means to me." He continued looking at her straight in the eyes to show how serious he was with a big grin on his face, to which Akeno again blushed a bit and replied, "And no problem, as I told you before, you are my friend and that won't change no matter what race you belong to." Issei's heart was extremely relieved when he told her that. It felt as if a huge burden was lifted off of his shoulders and he could not express how deeply thankful he is to Akeno for it. A small silence permeated after she said that, both not knowing what to say until Akeno broke the silence. "So, do you want to continue playing? I have no idea how long our parents will keep talking to each other," she asked him and Issei nodded, signaling that he agreed as they continued playing together. Back with the parents, after a long arduous argument and many apologies being said, Shuri decided to break the ice, so to say. "How about we continue our discussion inside? I was previously making tea and I would be happy if you could join us while the kids are playing together." Thinking a bit on her offer, Great Red accepted her offer and told them that he needed to talk to Ophis for a bit and then they would join them inside. Barael and Shuri both nodded and went inside, letting the 2 dragon gods talk amongst themselves. Great Red could tell that Ophis was still irritated over the previous events that transpired, so he wanted to try and calm her down as much as possible. "Look, the fallen angel Barael already apologized for the earlier incident against Issei, so how about you lay it to rest, forgive them, and take this chance to get to know them better?" he asked her, trying his best to reason with her. Ophis, in response, glared at him angrily, replying, "How do you expect me to forgive him after he nearly harmed our son?" Seeing how stubborn she was, Great Red decided to try a different approach. Okay, you know what, fine," he said as Ophis raised her eyebrow a bit, trying to understand what he meant. He just continued on. "You can do whatever you want. If you really can't forgive them for their actions, then go ahead and do whatever you feel is right. I will not stop you if you wish to get rid of them, or, as I previously mentioned, we can erase their memories and put all of this behind us. However, look over there." She paused as he pointed towards Issei. He waited until Ophis turned around and looked towards their son and then continued. "If you do this, then it will take away the small amount of happiness that Issei managed to earn during his stay here. Do you have the heart for this? Like I said, I will adhere to any choice you make." Great Red finished, letting Ophis to slowly take in his words. At first, Ophis, still infuriated, was hell-bent on dealing with the fallen angel. Circumstances or not, no one gets away with threatening the life of her son. That was the promise she made to herself when she left the dimensional gap. Nevertheless, after gazing at her son having fun with Akeno, she slowly began to calm down, letting Great Red's words sink in. Would she be able to do this knowing the effect it would have on Issei? As she was debating with herself, she suddenly remembered something Issei told her back when he was defending Barael. Please don't do this, if you do I will hate you. The mere thought of Issei hating her sent her emotions spiraling out of control. I can't let what that insolent being almost did to my little Issei go unpunished, but I don't want Issei to resent me. What do I do? She thought to herself. Never in her life had she ever encountered such troubles as the Ouroboros dragon god, no sane being ever messed with her, but now it seems the enemy is herself. Internally, she is stuck between two sides. Should she follow through with her promise or discard it for Issei? How ironic that she threatened Great Red to put Issei's well-being and happiness above all else, including his crazy antics, and yet, here he was thinking only about Issei's happiness, while she is placing her pride above Issei. What cruel irony. In the end she exhaled a sigh of defeat looking back at Great Red. You're right. I still don't think I can forgive him for what he has done, but for our son's happiness, I will at least try to get along with him. At this, Great Red gave out a cheeky grin, although decided not to tease her about it, since he knew how hard it was for her to admit that he was right. Very well. Let's not keep them waiting any longer then. He said as he dragged her inside the shrine where they saw Shuri preparing the table with tea and a few refreshments. When Shuri saw them walk in, she graced them with a smile and kindly invited them to come and join them. Please make yourself at home. I am almost done preparing tea and there are a few cupcakes on the table. You are welcome to take some if you'd like. At the mention of sweets, Ophis immediately bolted towards the table in the blink of an eye, and before anyone even noticed she was already munching on one. It took everything in Great Red's willpower to not just let go and laugh at the scene before him. Well, I guess that's one way to calm her down, he thought to himself as he took a seat next to her. He wouldn't admit it to her, but he found her action to be extremely cute. I didn't know you liked sweets that much. Teased Great Red, now sporting a grin. Ophis blushed a bit, which she tried to quickly hide as she answered, "Oh shut up, Bucka Red." Great Red, amused with her reaction, sported a small giggle which Ophis noticed, but before she could reprimand him, Shuri came back with freshly prepared mint tea and began to serve both of them. In addition, she brought out some sake for her husband and for her guests, in case they wanted some as well, as she is not familiar with the type of drinks dragons would want. Ophis, being ticked off by Great Red's behavior, decided to sit at the other end of the table. Shuri let out a small giggle seeing her reaction, remembering that she used to do the same thing whenever her husband did something she didn't like, but it was often to tease him, as his expressions were priceless. Plus, she got to administer her own punishment whenever Barael tried to make up with her. She then decided to join her and try to get to know her better. Seeing that Ophis was not interested in starting a conversation, she would have to break the ice between them. I take it that is how he usually behaves? She asked curiously. Ophis turned around, still annoyed by Great Red, and answered. Unfortunately. Seeing that she managed to start a conversation, Shuri poured tea for both of them until Ophis looked at the other bottle next to the tea and got curious what it was. What drink is that, as she pointed towards the bottle near the tea. Shuri took the bottle and answered, "This is sake that my husband drinks. He usually drinks it whenever we have guests or to sometimes help alleviate his mood whenever he gets depressed or agitated." Ophis, being a bit naive, took that statement quite literally and decided to try some, since she was not in a very good mood at the present moment. After a few drinks of sake, she literally started pouring out her pent-up feelings about Great Red. The dimensional gap was my home long before he ever knew it existed, and yet he simply waltzes in and starts living there. He is extremely noisy, performing all his crazy maneuvers, and when I told to get out of my house, he just shrugs me off, saying that there is enough space for us both. The nerve of him. What an annoying, obnoxious, noisy, loathsome. As Ophis kept slinging insult after insult about Great Red letting everything out in the open, Shuri found her reactions to be absolutely adorable. It seems even a dragon god has worries just like any other living being. Even worse, it seems my little Issei is slowly being corrupted by him. I saw him teach him some of his annoying stunts back home. I cannot allow Issei to end up like that idiot. Ophis exclaimed. If Yufu, in that case, why don't you punish him a bit? Isn't it a wife's duty to discipline her husband whenever he does something stupid? Give him a good smack in the head to let him know how you feel. Answered Shuri, letting a small grin appear on her face. You know what, you are right, I'm going to give him a piece of mind, stated Ophis. You could tell that she was a bit drunk as she just casually ignored the fact that she was called Great Red's wife, something that would have made her enraged a few months ago. Shuri simply giggled a bit as she followed Ophis towards their husbands. How's it like living in the dimensional gap? Asked Barael as he took a sip of his sake. It's an amazing place that grants me the freedom to do whatever I please, answered Great Red as he remembered swimming unhindered throughout the dimensional gap while performing as many awesome moves he could think of. Ah, those were the days. Oh, anything interesting happens? Questioned Barael. Great Red pondered on the thought. Other than Ophis constantly bugging me to get out of the dimensional gap, I don't think. Wait, I do remember one thing. Flashback. In the dimensional gap, a 20-meter tall purple dragon came up to Great Red. Great Red, my name is Tannen the Blaze Meteor Dragon. I have recently been appointed the title of Dragon King and I challenge you to a duel. Said dragon, revealed to be Tannen, after his declaration immediately started to assault Great Red with his renowned flame that took the shape of a meteor, easily bigger than Tannen. The attack hit Great Red, causing an explosion. However, out of that attack came Great Red virtually unscathed as he continued to fly across the dimensional gap, seemingly having brushed aside Tannen's attack. To say that Tannen was shocked would be an understatement. He knew that Great Red was the strongest dragon in existence, which is why he wanted to test his power against him, to see his limits. Yet, he could not believe that his full power couldn't even make Great Red notice him, let alone scratch him. What a monster of unparalleled strength. Completely ignorant of Tannen's inner turmoil, only one thing was going on in Great Red's mind. Did I hit something? Doesn't matter, should I try a back roll this time? He was pondering what crazy stunt to perform next. Flashback end. Not sure if I bumped into something, but I do not believe anything of value has occurred to me. Although that was the past and now my actions are aligned with a single goal, and that is to give my son Issei the best life possible. Great Red gave a genuine smile while thinking of his son. Barael, understanding what he meant, responded with a smile of his own. I understand. My family is the best thing that has ever happened to me, and I will do anything to ensure their happiness. Looking at Shuri, who was busy making conversation with Ophis. Although sometimes I fear that my strength will not be enough to protect them from harm. He said as his face showed a gloomy expression. Raising his brow, from what I can tell, you have done a good job so far. Why doubt that now? Questioned Great Red. It's not that simple. Throughout my life, I have made many enemies who would go to great lengths to harm me if given the chance. If, by some chance, they found out about my family, I dread to think of the horrors they would do to them. My greatest fear is that one day, I am unable to protect them and they pay the price for my mistakes. Barael shivered at the thought. If you do not believe that your strength is enough to defend them, then why not move them to your organization? Grigori, I'm sure that perverted fallen Azazel would help you since you are allies. I have considered that. However, my wife and I did not want Akeno to live her life closed off from the outside. She should be able to grow up like a normal child, making friends, going to school, and I do not want to deprive her of a childhood. In addition, according to Azazel, there are traitors inside Grigori, so if anything, they would be placed into even more danger. I cannot let them get caught in the crossfire, so we opted to live here, in the shrine away from prying eyes. Barael explained to Great Red. Great Red did understand a bit where Barael was coming from. The only reason he and Ophis moved to the human world was to give Issei a somewhat normal social life, and they kept themselves hidden in order to not attract attention towards them since, however unlikely, they did not want Issei to get hurt. I see. For what it is worth, I think you are doing a great job at protecting your family. So my advice to you would be to continue doing the best you can, and everything should be alright. After all, no one knows what the future may hold or what is in store for us, not even me, therefore, the future you describe might not even come to pass, so don't worry too much about it. Barael was a bit taken aback by Great Red's wisdom as he recalled how Azazel once described him, which made him giggle a bit. You really are a lot different than the simple-minded dragon Azazel described you to be, he said in a low voice. However, with his enhanced hearing, Great Red managed to pick it up. Oh, did he now? He thought to himself as he flashed a bit of his power with a grin on his face, with no one the wiser. In the Grigori, Azazel was conveniently taking a nap when all of a sudden his dream turned into one of his worst nightmares, where his vice-governor Issei as well as the other fallen angel leaders started destroying his laboratory and all his creation, labeling them as dangerous. Then, all of a sudden, both the Seraph Gabriel and Mauseraphel appeared, both wearing evil grins, as they brought forth a special collection of books in front of Azazel, who realized that it was his porn collection that he kept stashed away. Both activated a fire spell, and quickly Azazel understood what they were gonna do. No, Gabriel, Seraphel, please don't burn my treasure. I beg of you, have mercy. It all fell on deaf ears as they set ablaze his collection. Ooh. Azazel would continue to have these nightmares over the following week, which he later dubbed the worst week of his entire existence, and for safety, decided to add a variety of locks and spells to his treasure, just to be very sure. Back to the shrine. Great Red internally laughed at the small prank he inflicted on Azazel. That's what you get for calling me simple-minded, you punk. Well, he was used to being called way worse names by Ophis in the past, but he will be damned if he allowed someone to mock him. Barael, noticing his absent-minded expression, asked. Is something the matter? To which Great Red quickly replied. No, everything is alright. Anyways, where were we? Ah yes, if it would alleviate your worries a bit, how about I make a proposition? Should danger ever befall your family, give me a call, and I will help you protect them. To say that Barael was shocked would be an understatement. Did the strongest dragon just offer to protect his family? Why would you studied Barael before Great Red raised his hand, thereby interrupting Barael's question as he continued. I know what you were going to ask, and to tell you the truth, the primary and foremost reason I am doing this is for my son. Issei has befriended your daughter, and if anything were to happen to you all, my son would be devastated, and that is something that both Ophis and I would want to avoid at any cost. Barael could not believe what he was hearing, and yet he could only have the briefest of hope that it was true. The Apocalypse Dragon was implying that he would help protect his family. Even if it is in the interest of his son, in which Barael could understand his reasoning as he would do the same for his daughter, it would pretty much be the best protection his family would ever get. He could not even begin to describe how truly happy and grateful he was to the dragon, so he did what he could and bowed deeply to him. I am eternally grateful for this. Truly, I would be in your debt if you were to help me protect my family, responded Barael. Great Red just motioned him to raise his head and answered. Do not worry about it. Besides all of a sudden, someone hit him in the back of the head, thus ruining the current atmosphere to which he was around, and saw that Ophis performed the act. Hey, what the hell was that? He asked while rubbing the back of his head. However, upon closer inspection, he noticed that his cheeks were flushed and she was swaying a bit, meaning only one thing. Oh shit, is she drunk? I did not know it was even possible for a dragon god to get drunk, he thought to himself before Ophis interrupted his thoughts. That was for mocking me earlier and for all the crazy stuff you put me through. She then proceeded to hit him again. Why did you hit me again? Demanded Great Red. Because I felt like it. Haha, she answered, now sporting a big grin on her face. Drunk or not, she felt great being able to smack him around. Great Red could tell she was actually happy. And he would probably never admit it, but he found her expression to be incredibly cute, as for the first time, he saw her as a beautiful woman. Barael, who saw their little episode, tried to restrain his laughter, but eventually could not hold it back any longer. Ahahaha, you better get used to this, my friend. Unfortunately, that is one of the, shall we say, inconveniences of having a wife. He exclaimed. Ara, did you just say something I cannot ignore, my dear husband? It seems you are in need of a little punishment after this. Shuri exclaimed as she licked her lips in anticipation of her hidden activities with her husband. Barael, knowing what she meant by punishment, blushed a bit as he was looking forward to it. His wife is a very big sadist while he is a masochist, so in a way you could say they are indeed a perfect match. Yes. I mean May. Barael could not think of anything as his mind went blank, but, on the side, he could hear Great Red laughing at him this time around. Ophis just stared at her husband. Shuri has the right idea. Oh, what is this? You became friends already, I see. That was fast considering it is you we are talking about. Well, at least, she is a million times more tolerable than you, Ophis exclaimed as she pointed towards him. Great Red clutched his in mock pain. Oh, you wound me, Ophis. He joked. Ophis decided to go along with it and responded. Well, it's about how you felt pain for all that you have put me through. Everyone just laughed as they were all having a good time. Even Ophis had to admit to herself that she was enjoying the time spent with them despite the previous mishap. And so, they continued on talking to one another. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the MAIRSARMY321 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.